short biography of Dr. Hudaya Kandahjaya. So he is graduated from Berkeley and presently active in BDK, America, California. Throughout his career, which focused on Buddhist studies, Dr. Hudaya has successfully published many significant chapters, articles, and books. The most famous one and is related to Borobudur is Sanhyang Kamahayanikan. Not only stopping there, Dr. Hudaya also has published many conference papers and theses talking about Borobudur. He also speaks 11 languages, which is very impressive. So without further ado, Dr. Hudaya Kandahjaya, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very gracious introduction. To save time, I will start just talk about what I'm trying to say. But before that, I'm honored to speak here in this webinar with Venerable Dagri Rinpoche and other venerables in the traditions of the Tibetan Buddhism, and also to all participants in the webinar. Good day, because I do not know what time actually I am in the world. So here in California is of course morning, and other parts of the world probably day or even evening. So I will share my talk today. This is not a teaching. First of all, I need to correct that. But something that I studied along the way, because I'm especially interested in Indonesian Buddhism and how it evolves from something that we hardly know of anything up to, of course, the famous monument Borobudur. And in this particular webinar, we are talking about the relationship of Atisha or Dharmakīrti and Borobudur. So these subjects are very tricky because we do not have many or much evidence of what has happened in the past. So I will share my slides so I'll try to talk in terms of Adi Buddha across Indonesian cycles, because when I put the questions in front that about the relationship of Atisha or Dharmakīrti and Borobudur, we cannot do otherwise because the clue that shows the relationship between those famous people with Borobudur actually through the teaching of Adi Buddha. Following his own auto-commentary on the Bodhipatta Pradipa, Atisha said that he received the teaching of Paramādibuddhatantra from Lama Serlingpa. And this is a very important point, but also we need to understand that many scholars believe that Adi Buddha teaching came around or started in India. And they even talk about the year 1026 when the teaching of Adi Buddha started. But then it was brought to Tibet in between 1030 to 1042. So it was before Atisha arrived in Tibet. But that is something that very much questionable, because Atisha studied with Serlingpa in Sumatra, in between 1012 to 1024, meaning if he received the Adi Buddha teaching from Serlingpa in those days, that means Adi Buddha teaching was already circulated outside India before what scholars said started in India. So what kind of things that we have in Indonesia then to show how the teaching Adi Buddha was or happening in Indonesia? So I will start that with that's why I titled it as Adi Buddha Across Indonesian Cycles, to show you how the Adi Buddha teaching evolves. So I will divide it into three parts or three periods. It's the period up to the time of Borobudur in 8th or 9th century, after Borobudur and after Indonesian independence. Because here, if we consider the life of Atisha, that happens actually after Borobudur. So in up to Borobudur, there are evidence that shows the teaching of Adi Buddha evolves actually from several sources. The first of that is actually an inscription called Talang Tuo. It's in the region of the big kingdom there is Sriwijaya in Sumatra. And to my understanding, it was probably written or composed by another famous Indonesian teacher named Sakyakirti. Sakyakirti lived around 6th, 7th century probably, where Yi Ching from China, a monk from China who went to India as well, studied there and studied under Sakyakirti. And it was the place, I could say that the place where they met was in Muara Jambi, the video that you saw earlier in this webinar. So this Talang Tuo inscription shows something, not exactly the term Adi Buddha, but the term Swayambhu here. Swayambhu is similar to the meaning of Adi Buddha, and it is written here. The inscription is written in Old Malay, and it was dated 684, this era. And you see this, the year of the, and this is probably one of the earliest sign of zero in the world. Here in this inscription, you will find a very brief teaching that leading to the becoming a Swayambhu. This inscription, I will go fast because the time is very limited, is actually in parallel to other inscriptions in Java. It's called Klurak inscription. And in this inscriptions, it mentions Manjusri and our venerated Manjusri. And in that inscriptions, it says something like very peculiar. The Trimurti from the Hinduism, Brahma, Maheswara, and Vishnu, were corresponded to the three Ratna, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And if we studied other texts in the Buddhist tradition, Guhya Samajatantra, for example, and Adyarda Satika, all mentions about the correspondence between the Trimurti and the Triratna. And the book that also Buddhist book written in Sanskrit and Old Javanese called the Sangyang also mention those kind of correspondences. So this is indications that the early teachings of Adi Buddha probably was already around by 7th century, 8th century in Sumatra and Java. Klurak inscription is in Java, Sangyang is in Java. And they are all corresponding to each other, showing that the teaching were known to people in the archipelago. And particularly in the Sanikan, this is a text that specially mentioned the name Adi Buddha. So it's the name of Adi Buddha mentioned in the stages of Samadhi. And I read it here. The mind having defeated a powerful enemy becomes Adi Buddha in the Chakravarti king, is able to fulfill all wishes of all beings. Hence, such a mind is called the Mahamuni Wara Cintamani Samadhi. And this name is important because there was a Javanese monk named Pian Hong who went to China and studied together with Kukai. And Kukai was actually the founder of Shingon in Japan. Pian Hong studied under Huiko, and Huiko was a disciple of Amogawajra, and Amogawajra was actually a disciple of Vajrabodhi. So there is a kind of lineage there showing that they all each other know about this kind of samadhi, which is related to the name Cintamani Samadhi. And if we study Borobudur, we will find another inscriptions called the Kayumungan inscriptions, where it says something which is in the first of that inscription, showing sentences or phrase which is similar or paraphrase of the description of the samadhi that I just read. So indicating that Borobudur at that time knew already about the teaching of Adi Buddha. And already from the 19th century, actually, a Dutch scholar indicate that probably a statue from the inside of the main stupa here, it is the so-called the unfinished Buddha statue now residing in the museum next to Borobudur, is considered as a representation of Adi Buddha. Now, going to after Borobudur, there we find, because Borobudur was about 8th and 9th century, we found Dharmakīrti Atisha in Muara Jambi. So this is Dharmakīrti, of course, continuing the tradition of Sakyakirti of the 7th century. And here I said earlier that Atisha received the Paramādibuddhatantra from monk Pindo, and scholars believe that that was another name for Serlingpa or Suvarnadwipa. And there is a curious circumstantial evidence showing how this related to Borobudur, because the only thing in the world where Gandavyuha is depicted as a picture or relief are two in Borobudur and in Tabo Monastery. And we understand that we do not know exactly whether Atisha went to Tabo, but scholars believe that pictures of Gandavyuha in Tabo Monastery was designed by his prime disciple. That is something that needs to be studied further, but at least it is a circumstantial evidence, probably indicating that Atisha went to Borobudur and looked at the pictures of reliefs of Gandavyuha and told the story how the Gandavyuha was depicted in pictures instead just in writing. So later on, we will find another literature called the Kakawin Sutasoma, which has or contains the teaching of similar to what the Sangyanga Manikan earlier mentioned. So there we find a phrase, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika Tanhana Dharma Mangrua, which a part of it becomes the symbol, part of the symbol or the coat of arms of Indonesian Republic. So you see that the picture of Garuda with the phrase Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which came from this Buddhist text. And later on, there is another literature titled Dewa Ruci, which mentioned Adi Buddha. All these two texts, Sutasoma and Dewa Ruci, came from about the 14th century. And we have here understanding that those two texts carrying the teachings that were earlier known to the community who studied Sangyanga Manikan. And while the scholars believe the teaching Adi Buddha in India was actually triggered by the Islam, Dewa Ruci in Indonesia actually carried into Muslim or Islamic literature. So after the independence, then we, as Indonesia requires all religions to recognize one supreme God, we in Indonesia follow homage to Adi Buddha. So we have the phrase Sanghyang Adi Buddha up till now. So that is my short presentation to show the possibility of how Atisha and Dharmakīrti at the time after Borobudur was built know, or probably in other words, Suvarnadwipa may not always be or should always be translated as Sumatra, but is actually referring to a region where, or the archipelago, Indonesian archipelago, including Sumatra and Java. Thank you.